Sportscaster and her son, where sports bridges the gap between the generations. I'm one of your hosts, Peggy Dionne, 12-time Emmy Award winner in Chicago. I work at ESPN Chicago. I am the host of the Chicago Bears Radio Network PostGame shows and Peggy and Dionne on Saturdays. And this is my co-host, Jason, my son.
Hey, Mom, how's it going?
It's going well. If we were to ever pick a topic that totally depicts our whole theme of this podcast, and that's two different generations, it would be soccer. Because my generation, growing up in the 70s and 80s in Chicago, no one played soccer.
Yeah.
Soccer was considered like a sissy sport. It was considered, something that nobody, you couldn't play football, American football, so you played soccer, and really frowned upon, which is really too bad, because when I watch what's going on in the U.S. playing on home soil for the first time in like 30 years, something like that.
32 years, yeah.
I think it's so cool. And you see all the fan stuff going on and how much they get into their country, representing their country. It's so awesome. In many ways, I'm jealous as an American sports fan.
Yeah. I think that you did a good job of explaining the difference in generational views of soccer. I mean, this is such a great time for America, the Americas, I guess, to be hosting a World Cup, because so many people my age are so into soccer. I was telling Shay, your son, my twin brother, yesterday, that my group chat of Texas friends who are into soccer at the start of the World Cup was like 8 guys, and now it's almost 30, because
oh my gosh,
this World Cup is just dragging people in and getting everyone excited. And I mean, it's off to a really great start. The stars are shining bright and the crowds have been fantastic. And it's just a really cool melting pot of cultures in America over the summer. And I think we can all agree that the best time in America is over the summer. So it's just a lot of positivity, and it's just showing the power of sports, which is great.
Okay, so I'm going to call this our World Cup for Dummies, or me being the dummy, you being a sports reporter in Kansas,
sure,
covering Kansas City sports, covering one of the locales that is hosting World Cup. I will ask you the dummy questions, and
sure,
you can just give us a preview of what we need to know. So here we go. How many teams are actually in this?
Yeah, so there are 48 teams in the World Cup, expanded from 32 the previous several World Cups. So just like every other postseason tournament, what have you in pro sports, the postseason has expanded. And so there are a lot more teams in the field this year. As a result, there are some smaller countries, a bunch of teams making their World Cup debuts, and a bunch more teams making it through to that next stage. So more opportunity for everyone, more games. It's great.
All right, so who's the favorite?
Argentina won the World Cup 4 years ago in Qatar. They're still the top-ranked team in the world. They have the best player in the world, Lionel Messi, who began his final World Cup, record 6th World Cup, with his first ever hat trick on Tuesday night in Kansas City Stadium. I was lucky enough to get to cover that game. Super, super cool stuff. So Argentina are easily the favorites, but there are some other really good contenders out there, like France and Spain and Germany. 2 of the 3 of those teams had really strong showings to start the group stage. So it's a pretty wide open pool. Argentina's the favorite, but not by so much.
Okay, so you said that Lionel Messi is the best player in the world right now. I thought that it was Mbappe from France.
Well, Messi's probably just going to be regarded as best player in the world until he decides to retire. He's 39 years old. His production hasn't dropped off. Yeah, he's playing in the MLS now, and a lot of people who cover the MLS will tell you he's probably going about 25 to 50% speed on any given night in the MLS and still dominating. But a performance like Tuesday night shows that when he wants to take it up a notch, when he wants to perform, he's still the best player in the world. Mbappe is easily a top 5 player in the world. Harry Kane from England is a top 5 player in the world. Erling Haaland from Norway, another top 5 player in the world. Those are probably the best players in the tournament, those 4. But Messi's still the best player in the world until he decides to stop playing soccer.
Why is Mbappe controversial?
Mbappe is just a little bit of a divisive figure because he doesn't mesh well with other superstars. He played for PSG, really the only relevant team in France on a global stage, was teammates with Messi, was teammates with Neymar, and they just all didn't really see eye to eye, and Mbappe is viewed as the reason why. Mbappe is also, I guess in America, viewed a little more controversially because he associates with the far left politically, which in Europe is, I guess, a lot more common for the athletes. But now that all these athletes are over in America for the summer, a lot of the Americans are being exposed to their views and are like, whoa, hold on, wait a minute. I didn't realize that, this guy felt this way. So that's another reason why some Americans are, I guess, a little more wary of Kylian Mbappe, but he's a fantastic player, and his opening round performance against Senegal showed that he's a top 3 player in the world without a doubt. And if he doesn't retire as one of, if not the all-time leading World Cup scorer, it'll be a disappointment.
So it's interesting that you brought up the politics, because this is one of those events in which politics does not take a back seat.
Right.
There has been I've seen so many headlines with the politics from players and fans not being able to stay in the United States, depending on the country that they are from. I think is that Republic of Congo is one of them.
Congo,
Iran.
Senegal, Ivory Coast. Just, it's not necessarily different from typical immigration or wanting to obtain a U.S. visa. Those are countries where those people would be having a hard time being able to visit the U.S. anyway. It's just now, I guess, a little bit more exposed because of the World Cup. And it just looks bad that, people can't come to root for their country just because that country is on some sort of travel advisory list from the U.S. So that's certainly been a cause for controversy. But I would say the good of the crowds and of the supporters who have been able to come over to the United States, the Koreans and the Japanese and the Scottish, have been super cool to see.
So one of the political angles ended up here in Chicago, and that was with 16 cities in the U.S., Mexico, and Canada that are all hosting this year in the World Cup. Chicago is not one of those cities. And being one of the biggest cities in the United States, everybody was asking, why not? What happened? Well, as it turned out, way back when the bids were put up for cities to bid on World Cup hosting, the Chicago mayor at the time was Rahm Emanuel, and he refused to go along with the FIFA rules of hosting. And what's interesting is I think people don't realize that this is not just FIFA that tells a host city you have to pay for your security, the police presence. And as you can see from all of these crowds, it's increased police presence, increased first responders availability, things like that. You have to pay for that when a President's Cup comes to your city, or a Super Bowl comes to your city. So that was interesting that a lot of people didn't understand why it's not in Chicago. But Jason, one of the weird FIFA rules that I'm still trying to figure out is the whole sponsorships. So they're very careful about what sponsor signs are in the stadium. And like fans can't have their flags hanging over certain sponsor names. And then some stadiums, you can't call them by the name of the stadium, like SoFi Stadium.
All of them. Yeah.
So give me an example of that. Like, what is the stadium in Kansas City called?
Well, it's called Kansas City Stadium. That's how all the stadiums are in America. Kansas City Stadium, Dallas Stadium. Los Angeles Stadium, which is ironic because the Cowboys Stadium is in Arlington, not Dallas. But yeah, Kansas City Stadium, all the Chiefs signage is taken down or covered up, with the exception of the Team Hall of Fame and some of the video boards that play Chiefs messaging. That is still going on. And then all the sponsors that aren't FIFA related are all covered up everywhere. I saw something on Twitter a couple days ago that at Gillette Stadium, which is now called Boston Stadium, which isn't in Boston, on the back of every single seat in the stadium is the Gillette logo. Gillette is not a FIFA sponsor. So somebody, presumably, hopefully more than a dozen people, had to put one piece of tape on the back of each seat to cover up, the Gillette logo, because Gillette's not a FIFA sponsor. Yeah, so it is very, very, I guess, overkill, you could say, that FIFA just really doesn't want to pay for any of this sponsorship from companies that they're not already affiliated with. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that too.
And then as a fan, now we've seen these fans. They're crazy. They're absolutely fanatical, and they have props. They like drums and stuff like that. You have to actually apply ahead of time with the stadium and with FIFA before you go to a match to get approval, like to bring your drums in or something like that. This stuff is so crazy.
Yeah, it is really crazy. There are a bunch of things you can't bring in. You can't bring in any flags that are deemed as offensive. I think that's a really good rule. You can't bring in any flags that are not the current flag of your country, because that can be deemed as political messaging. I think that's also pretty good. You said this is a sporting event where the politics aren't kept out of it, which is very much true because soccer is such a global sport. And having all these global teams, international teams in the same place kind of puts these global topics on a pedestal. But I don't know. I guess kind of, I don't know.
All right, so let's get to the brackets. You have every country is put into a bracket randomly. Here in the United States, we would call that fixing a bracket. How is it random?
So this is something that I don't have as much of a direct answer for. There's some sort of formula where each pool or each group is a certain combination of, like, I think it's like 3 automatic qualifiers and then one team who made it from the playoffs or something. That I don't have as much of a direct answer for, but is more of a product of the tournament being expanded. These groups are a little bit more watered down. Like, the US's group, Australia, Turkey, Paraguay, that's a pretty weak group. Turkey's a good team historically, but they really did not play well against Australia. And so I don't know if fixing would be the right term for it. I think it's more so a negative effect of expanding this field is that the group stage is a little easier now for these really, really good teams, or even not that good teams, just teams that I guess have more players from top 5 leagues in Europe than the smaller countries like New Zealand and Curacao and Paraguay.
Okay, so the group stage, you play every team in your group, and then the top 2 teams move on, right?
Yes, and then there are a couple of third-place teams who will advance as well based on goal differential and tiebreakers,
Well, why? Is it just for the numbers?
Right, yeah, for the numbers, because traditionally it would just be you're already down to 32 teams, so then 2 teams from each pool make it, and you're at the knockout stage of 16. But now it's a stage of 30. It's a stage of 32. So you can't take just 2 teams. There are also going to be a couple of third place teams who make it based on tiebreakers. But 2 teams from each pool are guaranteed to make it.
Okay, and the knockout stage is like the NCAA tournament, right? You win, you stay in. You lose, you're out.
Yeah, and no draws. So if the game's tied after 90 minutes, then they'll do obviously stoppage time as they do for any game, and then they'll do added time, which is 2 15-minute periods plus stoppage time. And then if there's not a winner determined there, And it's not like an NHL overtime where a goal ends a game. You know, a goal gives you the lead, but you keep playing until that added time is done. But if
Oh,
the game's still tied then after those two 15-minute periods of added time, and it's two no matter what, like if you score in the first period of added time, the second period of added time still happens.
okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And then so if you're still tied after those two periods of added time, then you go to a penalty shootout. Each team gets 5 kicks, but obviously it can be determined sooner than that, you know, based on who misses and who hits.
So we're 1 week into the World Cup tournament. What's been the biggest surprise so far?
I would say for the casual soccer fan, probably that Ronaldo is washed and that his best days are behind him, especially the day after Lionel Messi puts on a huge show at the age of 39. Ronaldo at the age of 41 put up a complete stinker against a much worse team. That was probably the biggest surprise. That and then Spain drawing Cape Verde. Cape Verde, one of the smallest countries in the field, playing in their first ever World Cup, small African archipelago. And those guys drew Spain. They held them scoreless. Their 41-year-old keeper, Vozinha, put up an insane clean sheet and really has been the story of the World Cup so far. So those would be the two biggest surprises. But you could also say the U.S.'s performance in the first game. They never put up 4 goals in a World Cup match, and they won 4-1 on home soil against a pretty good Paraguay team. Just completely outmatched them. So those would be my 3 biggest surprises. I hope I'm wrong about the U.S. being a surprise, but I don't think anybody expected them to win how they did last Friday.
Is it a home field advantage for the U.S. and how?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a home field advantage for the U.S. because who would be traveling from the U.S. to these other countries for the World Cup? Like, you don't know anybody who went from the U.S. to Brazil in 2014 for the World Cup. I don't know anyone who went from the U.S. to Qatar for the World Cup in 2022 to root on America. You know, we don't have that traveling fan base that all these other countries have. Like, Argentina filled up an entire football stadium on Tuesday, pretty much. And those were actual Argentinians. Like, those weren't Kansans wearing Messi jerseys or, you know, Argentinian immigrants. Like, no, those were people who came over from Argentina to watch the team play, and they're staying here until the team's eliminated. We don't have people like that. We don't have fanatical soccer fans like that. Maybe we have a couple, but we don't have nearly as many as the other countries, at least the countries as big as ours.
Okay, you brought up Argentina and their fans in Kansas City. Let's talk about the fans because I love these fan groups. And Argentina is crazy for Messi. What has that atmosphere been like?
Yeah, the atmosphere has been insane. I mean, he's just a national icon, a national hero for the Argentinian people. And it's a life-changing opportunity for a lot of people to get to watch him play because for just as many people who are there for the 10th time or the 20th time or the 30th time to watch him, you know, those traveling fans, there are just as many people who are there to watch him for the first time and have waited their entire lives for this and watch every single game of his from home, don't miss a performance of his, and are finally getting this opportunity to watch him in person. Soccer is just one of those sports where the intimacy of getting to watch a player up close in person is just indescribable for the biggest fans. And that's really what Messi means to the Argentinian people is he's not just a person or a superstar or a goal scorer. He's the symbol that everybody can celebrate and everybody can latch onto and everybody can just cherish as this awesome, positive beacon of Argentinian light.
Well put, Jason. Why are Scotland's fans putting up traffic cones on statues in Boston?
Because they're crazy drunkards. I mean, they have droves of fans who are in America for the entire World Cup and drinking each city that they're in dry. Boston was a fantastic city for Scotland to be in for their first match. this is also a team that does not historically have a lot of success in any international tournament. Scotland has never made it out of the group stage in the World Cup. They have never made it out of the group stage in the Euro tournament. So for Scotland to be in this expanded field, be clearly the third best team in their group, which means that they have a really good chance to make it through to the next round if they win at least one match, which they did against Haiti over the weekend. It's just, there are moments in sports where you could feel that something historic's about to happen, and that's what this is like for the Scottish people. They could feel that this is going to be the first team to advance out of the group stage of a major tournament, and they're just going to drink all summer to celebrate.
Why was Jameis Winston cleaning up the stadium after the Japan match?
Yeah, so Jameis Winston is an analyst slash influencer for Fox Sports during the World Cup. He's great. I mean, he has the personality for it, and he's a really bubbly guy, and that's what Fox looks for these type of events that you're trying to rope in more casual viewers for. The Japanese fans are known for cleaning up the stadium. They leave all their trash by their area, and then before they leave for the night, they pick it all up and put it in a trash bag that they brought with them and used to, cheer. How we do is rally towels. In the U.S., they use these garbage bags, and then they keep them for after the game and pick up all their trash and take their trash home with them and throw it out. And Jameis Winston was helping them out with that.
That is so cool.
It is cool.
There's the Netherlands fans. They call it the Orange Fan Walk.
Orange.
Orange? What? Okay, I saw a video of this. Holy cow. It was thousands of fans in orange.
Yeah, thousands. I mean, that, like I said, this is the third or fourth time now that I'm mentioning these traveling fan bases. The Netherlands probably has the most well-known traveling fan base. Just hundreds of people who travel to watch this team at every stage of their international tournaments. And yeah, they love to have a good time. They have their chants, they have their formations that they do. Kind of reminds me of like the cha-cha slide on steroids. And like a lot of the other European countries, it's a group of people who really like to drink. And so they're drinking a lot of beer and really enjoying their time in these cities that they would have never been in otherwise.
Yeah, like you mean like Norway's fans? They do that.
Sure.
They imitate the rowing all together in unison, and they grunt.
So that's one of the players' things, is the players started celebrating by pretending like they're Vikings rowing a boat. And the big thing with Team Norway is before they took off for the U.S., they did this professional photo shoot as a team where they all dressed up as Vikings and had, their old-fashioned boats and oars and, weapons and stuff. And because that's super famous in Nordic history and culture, that has just become a big thing that is synonymous with their team for this tournament. And they're also a team that a lot of Americans are following because their best player, Erling Haaland, is one of the best players in the world. So he's playing in his first World Cup, had a massive performance in Boston against Iraq on Tuesday. So Norway is just another one of those teams that people are latching onto, and the fans who traveled to watch their nation play are having a lot of fun with it. So yeah, some of the celebrations have been a lot of fun. That Norway celebration, though, probably been the most notable.
Senegal fans, they call it the 7 letters, and they spell out Senegal in body paint. That's been pretty cool to watch. But I don't is there an American tradition?
No, not necessarily. We have the corny "I believe that we will win" chant. But other than that, like I said, America doesn't have that traveling fan base, that soccer, I guess, hub where people, can create these traditions. We don't have much of a soccer history. That's why this World Cup being here right now is so big, because this right here is soccer history. And with the U.S. continuing to perform at a high level, with every win, with every goal scored, it only increases the soccer culture in the country, builds the soccer history, and then, hey, maybe 10, 15, 20 years from now, or 30, 40 years from now, when the next World Cup is in the United States, we'll have traditions like all these other countries have.
I will say fans seem to be having a moment right now. And I don't know if it's just contagious from World Cup fever, and so many other countries' fans are here celebrating in such a enthusiastic, fun way. New York celebrating the Knicks winning the NBA title.
Right, like that's very European coded, the way that they've done that. And I don't agree with some of the I guess the violence that has come along with it, and some of the trashing of the city. You know, that's a little unfortunate. I think that's a little un-American. But the positive stuff, you know, seeing hundreds of thousands of people out in the street celebrating a championship, it's pre-COVID. You know, we kind of lost that after COVID, during COVID, and hadn't really regained it as a country until now. You know, these huge group gatherings for sports where it's just literally like 1 million people in a city celebrating one thing. It's super cool to be back to that. It's super cool to be building that up in America. I just hope that we learn how to do it in the right way. When that comes to Chicago, hopefully it's the White Sox soon. Hopefully people aren't destroying school buses and beating up people wearing the other team's jerseys, because I don't condone that.
Well, I think you've done a pretty good job of explaining to this this old OG here, World Cup soccer. Tell me, like, what I should not miss now. Like, what's my heading? You know, we're heading into the weekend, and then we have 4th of July in another week. So, what should I be watching for in the next week with World Cup?
Well, don't miss another Argentina match, because it's clear now that Messi is going to be playing in every game. There were questions about his health coming into the tournament. He's playing. He's clearly playing at a high level. You don't want to miss him. This is obviously going to be his last World Cup, because he turns 40 this year. So can't miss another Messi match. In that same breath, you know, should probably catch Ronaldo too. He is washed, but another one of the greatest soccer players of all time, greatest athletes of the 21st century. And so you got to catch him on the biggest stage one more time. And then as the U.S. advances out of this group stage and into the knockout round, the biggest thing to watch, they have never won a knockout stage game. But with this field being expanded, they're going to probably have a cupcake. Like right now, their most likely opponents in that round of 32 are Egypt, who would be a tough team to face, Iran, who drew against New Zealand. The U.S. will be feeling really good about that matchup. And then lastly, Qatar, who lost 6-0 to Canada on Thursday, and had 2 players sent off with red cards. Like, that doesn't feel like much of a knockout match. So that's the number one thing to watch, is who does the U.S. get paired with in that round of 32? Where is that U.S. game? Because the U.S. wants to keep winning these games. If they win their group, their next 3 games are guaranteed to be in the United States, which is massive. And so where are the games? Who are they playing? And can they win that elusive knockout stage game? They've never done it before, but this year certainly feels like the year, given all the hype around the team, the performance, and of course the expanded field.
Jason, well done, buddy. I appreciate the knowledge today on World Cup soccer. I feel a little bit smarter, and I actually am excited to watch. So I will be tuning in. This was fun.
Good. I'm glad.
And you and I, next time I see you, we are going to be in a soccer crazed area of the world, and that is Africa, as we go on a family safari vacation, once in a lifetime opportunity for us. And I'm excited to share that with you, buddy.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm excited to be off work for that long. And it's going to be really fun to see you and the family and see some really cool animals. I'm excited about it, Mom. Enjoy some soccer.
In the meantime, everyone, don't forget to follow us, whether it is on X. You can see our handles underneath our names here on YouTube, or the audio version wherever you might get your pods, or on the ESPN Chicago app. Jason, well done. I'll see you in another week.
See you in a week, Mom.